an exclusive interview with one of the most powerful men in sport. Thomas Bach wants to take the Olympic movement to new continents.
We should understand the diversity of the world as an enrichment.
He wants to set a new Olympic agenda for the 21st century.
We had to convince people that the change was necessary, and change was necessary now.
And he wants to spread the Olympic message to new audiences.
Not only for the 16 days of glory, but 365 days a year.
I go one-on-one with the IOC President Thomas Bach on this special edition of Beyond the Medals. Hello, I'm Rick Horrow, and welcome to Beyond the Medals. Each month we explore the business side of Olympic sport, and on this edition I sit down for an exclusive interview with the executive who leads the entire Olympic movement. Thomas Bach's been president of the International Olympic Committee since September 2013, and his experience as a gold medalist in fencing and as longtime head of the German Sports Federation helped him win election to the IOC presidency over 5 other challengers. And Bach has put his stamp on the organization. He's reformed and modernized the bidding process to host the Games. He's negotiated long-term television deals in the US and Europe. He's on the verge of launching a year-round Olympic digital channel, and his broad platform of changes, Agenda 2020, has been approved and adopted as the Olympic movement's roadmap for the future. One of Bach's key priorities is inclusion, bringing diversity into the Games and bringing the Games to diverse parts of the world. So I began by asking him how preparations are going for the 2016 Rio Games, the first Olympics to be held in South America.
I'm very confident there that at the end we will have great games in Rio de Janeiro. Until then, there is not a single moment to lose. But this is not unusual for games. Organizing the games is a very complex project and needs day-to-day attention. But at the end, I think we will see the great passion of the Brazilians, their great passion for sport and for life. And we will see an excellent organization with the backdrop of La Ciudad Maravillosa, of this marvelous city of Rio de Janeiro. So I'm really looking forward to this moment.
And there's an interesting trade-off, because you've said that it is important to take the Olympic movement to places that it's never been before. But of course, that poses some intellectual, financial, and logistical challenges. How do you balance that trade-off?
I think we should understand the diversity of the world as an enrichment. And we should appreciate that in different parts of the world, there are different perceptions of what Olympic Games can be and should be. And this, for me, is one of the fascinations of the Olympic idea and the Olympic Games, that you have the core values of these Olympic Games, that you have these athletes, the best athletes of the world coming together under one roof, delivering the best sport the world and human beings can offer, and at the same time sending this strong message of unity of the world.
There can't be one cookie-cutter fits-all process. There has to be some diversity.
Now, if one edition of the Olympic Games would be a copy of another one, it would become quite boring after the second or third edition. And by just having such a blueprint, we would not really reach out to the world. Let the people be creative. Let each host country show its culture to the world and make the world understand that there are different ways to reach the same goal. And the same goal is organizing excellent Olympic Games.
Interesting wrinkle in Rio. We've got rugby, we've got golf. I don't know if you're a rugby player. Are you a golfer?
I'm a rugby player since about 8 weeks.
8 weeks ago, a rugby player. A quick learner.
So
golfer? Do you play golf?
No, not really. I tested now during the Olympic Day we had in the IOC headquarters a golf exhibition. And the people were kind enough to tell me I would have some talent. But
I suspect they
think
probably would tell you that anyway, but you got to
no,
keep
no,
your,
no,
gotta
that's
keep
what
your
I'm
head
saying.
down.
They were polite enough. It was maybe more polite than honest.
Well, but regardless, Rio, excited about those sports. How do you think they'll help the movement?
I think they will put a very special spice to the Olympic Games, and these rugby sevens will give the opportunity to parts of the world to be on top, maybe even to win medals, which were not so prominently based there in the Olympic Games. I was recently to visit in Fiji, and there the whole nation is looking forward to rugby sevens in the Olympic Games because they think they could win their first ever gold medal in Olympic Games there. And golf is an extremely popular sport. We're looking forward to having the best golfers of the world there competing for their country, competing for the National Olympic Committee. And I think they will make the same experience as, for instance, the NBA players did some time ago, or the NHL players are making in the Winter Games. They will get addicted to the Olympic spirit, to the way of living in the Olympic village and to this Olympic competition.
When we return, I'll ask Thomas Bach about the state of Olympic sponsorship, including changes to Rule 40, which will give athletes some leeway to promote their individual sponsors during the Games.
I think that we have to be pragmatic.
Frank talk from Thomas Bach, only on Beyond the Medals. Here's a nugget of social intelligence from our friends at MVP Index. Rio's golf competition is likely to feature 3 of the game's top social media performers: Jordan Spieth of the USA, Australian Jason Day, and Ireland's Rory McIlroy. They're ranked 1, 2, 3 on the course and also ranked high in terms of social media reach and engagement. The bedrock of the Olympics' financial success in recent decades has been the top sponsor program, an exclusive sponsorship tier that's brought prestigious global brands on board as Olympic partners. As more professional athletes participate in the Games, it's become impractical to enforce rules that keep them from promoting their individual sponsors. Yet still, Thomas Bach has managed to keep increasing revenue from the top sponsor category.
Well, first of all, we are very happy to see the top program being appreciated by the business community. And in fact, we have signed just recently a number of very important contracts. And in all these contracts, in all these negotiations, in all these discussions, the Olympic Agenda 2020, our strategy for the future of the Olympic movement, played an important role. And this, of course, is very encouraging for us to have this commitment by the business community telling us we have confidence in the way you're going. We want to be part of it. We do not only want to be part of it, we want to support it, we want to contribute to it.
Rule 40 has been a very important vehicle to protect sponsors, but there is a bit of relaxation, especially with some of the individual sports like golf, where you respect sponsors who have come in with existing relationships. How do you feel about the trade-off and the relaxation going ahead?
I think that we have to be pragmatic, and we also have to appreciate what sponsors are doing for athletes outside the Olympic Games. And if you're in a situation there of having athletes who are enjoying a sponsorship by a particular company for years and years. Then again, we have to find a pragmatic solution. So far, everybody is quite happy with this compromise.
Television, the Discovery deal through 2024 surprised everybody. How important is that deal to the future of the Olympic movement?
I think it's very important because with this agreement, we will see a multi-platform approach to Olympic broadcast in Europe for the first time. We will see a program which is directed at youth, which is making use of the platforms the youth is attracted to. And we see a very good offer for cooperation also with regard to the Olympic channel. And that means that then, for the first time, we will have Olympic sports being present not only for the 16 days of glory, but 365 days a year. So the coverage will be much broader than before.
Let's talk about the Olympic Channel, obviously pledged as part of the Agenda 2020. When does it start? How many homes? How can you buy it? Who's going to run it? Give me specifics.
First of all, we will start with a digital channel, and this will be free for everybody who wants to follow. And then we will see, and in fact, we're already talking with some of the rights holders, how we can expand maybe this worldwide digital channel to the linear platform on a national or a regional way. This is how we want to start, and this is what we are working very hard for now.
Still ahead on Beyond the Medals, Thomas Bach talks about the landscape of global sport and the importance of integrity and transparency to the organization he leads. More of my exclusive interview with the IOC president coming right up. Welcome back to our exclusive interview with IOC President Thomas Bach. It's been a turbulent year for international sports. In the spring, the IOC faced criticism from Sport Accord, an umbrella organization representing international sports federations. Bach responded decisively, suspending recognition and funding for the group and committing to restructure the IOC's relationship with its member federations. Here's what Bach has to say about the Sport Accord controversy.
It was obvious in the recent months that the member federations or former member federations of Sport Accord had a very different view from the role Sport Accord should play. Just to give you an idea, in the past we were subsidizing Sport Accord and paying for a program in the anti-doping. So what the IFs agree and we are ready to do is, rather than paying others then to do the work, why don't we offer it directly and keep the direct contact with the international federations?
You've remarked about FIFA, where it's been, where it's going, a painful restructuring process that may need to be transparent. Where does FIFA go?
No, this is up to FIFA to
Clearly,
decide.
but
I think you expected the answer. But we have our own experience in the IOC. We had a really tough restructuring period about 15 years ago. Now with Olympic Agenda 2020, we have adapted our organization, our governance to the latest standards of good governance in many respects. I'm sure that their FIFA will find a way to restructure, will find a way there to introduce steps the IOC has introduced already a long time ago. Speaking about term limits, for instance, the age limit, and others more.
But the context of important, tangible identity or indicators of corruption reform, very important to you as well as you move forward, correct?
What we have to do is to put all the instruments in place to have the best possible prevention with regard to corruption. This is what the IOC has done. We have very strict rules with regard, for instance, for candidatures for Olympic Games. First of all, the whole session is electing the host city. Secondly, the IOC members cannot visit candidate cities. Presentations are very limited, and so on and so on. We have adapted our organization following the advice also of NGOs like Transparency International, like experts from United Nations and others. So there, everything is in place for prevention and in case of an infringement of the rules for sanctioning this.
The continental-oriented games, Commonwealth Games, Asian Games, Pan American Games, positive for the overall Olympic effort?
If they are well coordinated, then it can be positive for, in particular, for the continents there. And this is another effort we are undertaking in the framework of Olympic Agenda 2020, there to have a more concerted effort to look into the yearly schedule of sports events and to try there to avoid duplications and to safeguard also the interests of the athletes in this respect for not having too many important competitions in a short period of time.
Still plenty left on Beyond the Medals. Thomas Bach discusses the IOC's improved relationship with the USOC. It began with a new financial deal, but it's not all about the money.
This mentality change, from my point of view, was much more important than anything else.
In 2012, the USOC and the IOC signed a revenue-sharing agreement that was seen as an important step in repairing a long-standing rift. Since the two sides resolved their financial issues, they've also made considerable progress in other areas of cooperation. So I asked Thomas Bach how he sees the IOC relationship with the U.S.
I think it has improved a lot. We see with the now not so new anymore, but still new leadership in USOC, a very different attitude. Their USOC is much more part of the worldwide Olympic family. They're reaching out to many other national Olympic committees. They're reaching out to athletes in developing countries. They're reaching out to the IOC. So this is quite a change. And this different approach by the now leadership of USOC, I think makes Olympic sport much stronger in the United States, but is also strengthening the role of American Olympic sports in the worldwide sports community.
Would you agree that there's a bit more international receptivity to look at the bids from U.S. cities in a more positive context, maybe?
Yes, but again, I think because of this different approach, because of this reaching out, because of this the opening up, this was important. This mentality change, from my point of view, was much more important than anything else.
Let's talk about Agenda 2020 for a couple of minutes. Sweeping changes covering every aspect of the Olympic movement. What are you most proud of about 2020?
That we achieved this change, and we achieved it with a unanimous decision, because we had to convince people that the change was necessary, and change was necessary now. If you look at Olympic Agenda 2020, it's the clear message that the International Olympic Committee is ready to take the challenges of the future on, is ready to answer the questions of the youth, is ready to answer the questions of society, and is not just managing the next edition of the Olympic Games, but is really trying to look the 15, 20, 25 years ahead.
You're obviously prepared and unafraid to tackle the hard questions. Doping, sexual orientation, all of those issues.
I think you cannot ignore the just questions and challenges. You know, sport, I think, for many years, in particular in Europe, had the problem that you would say sport has nothing to do with politics, that means with the rest of society. Sport has nothing to do with money. This was already wrong for the ancient games 3,000 years ago, and it's even more wrong today. Sport today is an important part of society. You cannot ignore the questions being put forward by society, that you cannot ignore the challenges society at large is facing. So therefore, at the end, these questions were not difficult. It was just logic and necessary to try to find an answer to them.
You're changing the world at breakneck speed. You're protecting the Olympic movement. Are you having fun?
Yes. Sport is always also about joy in life. You know? Sport is a very positive component of our life. It's a real enjoyable task because you can do something for the athletes and also for the athletes of the future.
That wraps up this edition of Beyond the Medals. Hope you enjoyed our exclusive interview with IOC President Thomas Bach. And remember to visit universalsports.com for more Olympic news and highlights, as well as more video from our program. We'll be back next month with more insight into the business of sport. Thanks for watching. I'm Rick Horrow. See you next time.